All right, so today we have a bit of a new game that came out called Pragmata. And so the premise is basically you're a soldier on the moon, and you befriend this little robot, this android girl, and you basically go to an adventure trying to defeat an evil AI. Pretty straightforward premise, nothing too crazy. However, this game has brought on some of the most insane discourse I have seen like in a while. Now, mind you, every couple of months, okay, there's a game that'll come out that'll have discourse like this. And so you might be wondering, oh, actually, what could possibly be people talk about now? What is it? This game seems pretty wholesome. Well, apparently, a lot of people have a lot to say about, fatherhood and parenting, which is crazy. And not just parenting, but I'm talking about like, basically shaming men for wanting to have children. That's what it comes across, which is really strange because, especially with stuff like, birth rates going down, I feel like that should be encouraged just a little bit, but shh, I ain't saying nothing. Anyways, so moving along. Sorry, it really kills me. So let's start off with Hasan Piker, because I think Hasan has a very interesting take about, people talking about the game and discourse around the game. So let's see what he has to say. And mind you, you guys may not like it, but it's better to at least hear people out. Let's hear them out.
Together as a little family. Even streamers who say at the start they didn't want kids end up breaking down happy in tears. So what's really interesting about this is all of these unfuckable losers in the gaming sphere always talk about like starting families and stuff. And I don't understand like why this has become a thing that they care about. Like, if you're a gamer, you should care about things that you actually experience. You should care about things that you actually enjoy, right? If you're a fucking lonely gamer who has never been around a woman and will never have sex with a woman, why do you care? Like, why do you care about having children or like riding for having children? Like, if they changed hot Cheetos, if they changed the recipe of hot Cheetos, if they changed the recipe of like, I don't know, Dr. Pepper or something, and you fucking freaked out about that, that makes sense, right?
The part that kills me about that whole clip is the fact that he goes from gamers to incels. He's like, oh, lonely gamers who are not gonna get some. It's like, what? What? And first of all, you can have an opinion on stuff that if you don't have children, you have an opinion on children. That's fine. But however, how people respond to you, I cannot help you. And so I'm just trying to figure out exactly how is and also he's a gamer too. So what does that even make? He literally plays games on his stream like all the time, and he literally said he plays Pragmata. Like he said in another clip, he's playing the game right now. So where does that even come from? But the whole point is that Ozan decides said, "Hey, let's put people down instead of actually having a conversation." Not that I expect much from him in the first place. Okay, I mean he's basically he's like a robot to me. Ironically, he's actually like a robot from the game. It says repeats the same stuff over and over again. So he's not going anywhere with that. But anyways, so the point is the big one. This viral tweet that went around. It's from Mary Morgan. Now, from what I gathered on her, she apparently works for like Tim Pool, and Tim Pool's a really popular podcaster, and so she has her own show and all that. But anyways, so what does she have to say about this? And I'm sure we're gonna get some very, very insightful stuff. So she says this here. Lots of strange reaction to this game. Let's clear some things up. Childless men do not have paternal instincts the way that childless women have maternal instincts. We observe this even in the way little girls play versus little boys. Men first experience paternal instincts once they have their own children, and typically those paternal instincts are only ever felt for their own children and no one else's. Men are not nurturers. Men don't gush over cute kids in public. Men don't have baby fever. If a man wants to possess a child for any reason other than it being a product of his own lineage, he is likely a predator. And you'd be taking the feminist radical gender abolitionist position to protest any of the above points. This should explain why a dad simulator game marketed to mostly childless men give people the creeps. Now, okay, not once did she point any study to back up this claim, not once did she do any of that. But let's hypothetically give this one. Let's actually give her the point. Let's give her the point. So by her logic, if you want to adopt, if you become a guardian like last minute, okay, the child that's not yours, you're likely a predator if you're a man. Not if you're a woman, by the way. If you're a man, you're just a predator. If you somehow want to do any of those things, or if you have to, if you have to babysit for a bit, okay, you are likely a predator, according to this person, which doesn't make any sense. And actually, ironically, she actually got community noted for that, saying that's not inherently true. And it's like, yeah, it's like, dude, that doesn't make any sense. And so the fact of being a dad simulator is crazy because we literally had a game not too long ago, which we'll actually talk about in a bit, but like God of War Ragnarok, which is technically also a dad simulator, but I didn't see her say one thing about that, not once. So make it make sense. Anyways, so she actually goes on to elaborate further. She says, to those denying biology, would you hire a male babysitter? You meet your kindergarten teacher and it's a dude. How do you feel about that? What do women have that men don't? We're beginning to understand each other now. Men aren't women. None of this is a knock against men. It's just true. So what does hiring a babysitter have to do with biology? It's almost like she takes a bunch of words and she's just like mixes them up to into like a word shake. It's like biology, babysitter, kindergarten teacher. It's like what? And okay, and I feel like we have to move away from this whole talking point. Okay, men and women are different, but like they make it sound like we are Martians on this side and like Venetians over here, or the Venetians from Venice, Venice or Venusians or Mercurians or something, bro. I'm just trying to make it a blend. That's what she makes it sound. It's like, dude, there's some things that people like men and women generally share. For example, now, does everybody have hormones? To my knowledge, they do. Different ones and do different things, but everyone experiences like hormones and all that stuff. That's just a small example, but you get the point, right? So to me, I don't understand how she got all that from a video game. It's not like a study she saw. It's from a video game. And she actually defended her point here. So I actually want to give her a chance to defend herself because, naturally you should give people a chance. At least on this channel, we give people a chance to speak their mind. So she actually addressed this on her little show. So let's actually listen to it.
Just want to address this because I don't think it's totally unreasonable for people to get creepy vibes. Not because it's sexual in any way, but because this is a game that's primarily being marketed and sold to men who don't have children. And this is my hot take, actually. I'll just read it so we don't have to allude to it all the time. So I said, childless men do not have paternal instincts the way that childless women have maternal instincts. We observe this even in the way little girls play versus little boys. So I'm referring to little girls displaying maternal instincts in the way that they play with baby dolls. Even from birth, you can detect that female babies make more eye contact than male babies. It's just ingrained in us biologically that women are caregivers, they are the nurturers. Men first experience, this is continuing my post, men first experience paternal instincts once they have their own children, and typically those paternal instincts are only ever felt for their own children and no one else's. Contrast that, I guess, with, liberal moms on Facebook crying about children on the other side of the planet. Men are not nurturers. Men don't gush over cute kids in public. Men don't have baby fever. If a man wants to possess a child for any reason other than it being a product of his own lineage, he's likely a predator. Here I perhaps put too much, labor on the audience to interpret what I meant. I was inferring cases where, single men or gay men pursue adopting or buying a child via surrogacy without a mother involved in the process. And I do think that that's predatory. And it's predatory in the worst cases, of course, but in most cases just terrible for the child because a man can never provide for a child what even an adoptive mom can, but because their brains are literally just not wired to be nurturing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't understand how adoption is. That's a take I don't understand. She didn't even really explain it in that clip. She just says it's just predatory. It's like she doesn't explain how. She doesn't go into the why. She says it is. And even at the end, she says, "Oh, a woman can't provide what a child." Same goes both ways, okay? And even if men don't gush over babies in public, you don't think, fathers try to protect their children, okay? Isn't that a form of nurturing by protecting people, okay? Isn't a form of nurturing as well, like going out and providing? So, see why this discourse hurts my mind, okay? And by the way, this is all over a video game. In case you were wondering, right? It's over a video game. Anyways, and so like the reason why I find this take really stupid is because one, there are so many stories that are out there that have nothing to do, but that they cover the same topic, and nobody said anything about it. So, for example, here we have stuff like Logan. Okay, Logan is a very beloved movie, and I think it's a really good movie actually. And so that's a father-daughter relationship in there, and everyone liked it. I ain't hear nobody talk about it. I ain't hear Hasan talk about it. None of that. This one to another extent, it's like okay, it's not like the best example, but still you can still use it for. But like Taken, like Liam Neeson, the whole reason why he goes on a rampage is because they took his daughter. Okay, you tell me, they took his daughter. And if you want to keep going, you also have stuff like The Last of Us, where you're basically raising a teenager. And so when you're raising that teenager, it's kind of like, you see some nurturing and this and that. And also, what hits harder is that Joel had a daughter beforehand. And so that's why it hits even closer to home for him. And there's also a really popular show from a bit ago, The Mandalorian. Now, of course, Grogu's not a girl, but it still applies. Where literally this guy who never met never had a child, okay? And so he sees the bounty droid's about to take it. And guess what? He saves the child. I ain't hear nobody talk about, oh, this is men can't adopt. This is creepy. So it just feels like a selective bias when it comes down to it. And so to me, I don't know how you draw that conclusion for this game. But there's something else I want to actually point out, which is actually even more interesting. Is the fact that what does like the developers have to say about this game? Because I believe that, they're the ones who made it, so they have a certain perspective. And so, while it is hard to find interviews for this game, I did find a few snippets that you guys might like. So here's this first interview snippet I have here. And so the person asks, so Pragmata follows Hugh, a lost spacefarer, and Diana, a child android. From the trailers and the sketchbook demo, their relationship takes center stage, and as far as we've seen, Diana and Hugh are the only two characters outside of the villainous AI Idis. How was it crafting a story and game with just those two in mind? So, the director says, we intentionally narrowed the focus to deeply portray their connection and growth. Unlike other stories featuring adults and children, Diana is not just someone to be protected, she is an equal partner who assists Hugh. With a limited cast, we were able to carefully depict the process of them understanding each other beyond words. So, okay, do you see anything about birth rates or anything about, adopting a child? No, they want you to focus on this relationship because the director, from what it sounds like, has something to say about, raising a child, which is kind of evident because if you actually look at some of the clips, if you're ever taking care of children, you'll actually see that stuff they actually will do. It's pretty cute. And so, and then another thing here in a video, it also talks about here, directed show emphasized that hacking is not just a mini game, but a strategic element that can become a more powerful offensive tool than guns as the game progresses, highlighting the sophisticated balance between shocking and puzzle solving. The video also explores the narrative of the two characters struggling to return to Earth while bonding on a cold lunar base, as well as interactive elements such as upgrading equipment at their shelter to build a connection with Diana, all presented through the perspective of Shim Hyung Tak. And this really kind of goes to show you guys, this game is not meant to be taken as you could take it as a parenting simulator, but it's still the focus is on the relationship. And to me, it seems like people are kind of shooting past the point of the game. They're not looking at it. Okay. And this is just from the director himself. I haven't played the game, so I can't say with authority, but I can say, judging from what it sounds like, yeah, he's want to make the whole parenting stuff is really important. And even looking further, is just I don't understand how there's people talking about men can't feel parental instincts and all that stuff, or somehow it turns into, oh, this game is for incels and stuff. And even in other interviews that I looked up, they didn't mention anything about, oh, this is a game for childless men. Okay, if somebody said this is a game for childless men, that would be one thing. But the fact that that hasn't been mentioned, and if it is mentioned, then I'll put an edit. But so it's just crazy to me. And the crazy part is that this is not the first time this has been done, okay, when it comes down to a game. Because, for example, here, you can actually argue that even Death Stranding does the same thing. But anyways, a big game that came out, as you guys must know, is God of War 2018. So, if you want to look at what Cory Barlog had to say about it, he talks about his perspective on children and stuff. And mind you, fatherhood and sons is a big talking point when it comes down to that game. So it says here, switching on for the first game, talk about this. Having a son of his own, Barlog says it could be assumed that Kratos is based in part on himself, but he also gleaned some important ideas about how to build Kratos' character by observing the ways in which his wife manages parenting's many challenges. Barlog points to one story in particular that provided a breakthrough for developing the right tone for Kratos, who came off as being too mean in early drafts of the game. My son gets very fixated on the order of things, says Barlog. For example, his now 5-year-old son would get upset if Barlog or his wife did something as simple as putting on a pair of pants when he wasn't in the room. because he felt like he had to be there, do it first. We had a moment where my wife was a little frustrated, he says. She sort of yelled a little bit and then stopped, took a breath, and said, "Look, you have to understand that this is the order of things," he says. And so that's just an example, but the point is that, when it comes to games like these, when developers have stuff to say and they focus on certain aspects, that's what I feel like, we should be focusing on, not our men, like, parental or paternal or maternal laws that they should be focusing on. More like, oh, how could we learn from this game, or what did I learn from this game, or can this push a conversation forward? Nobody says that. It's all focused on the wrong stuff. And even the director for Pragmata, you can also see like he made like his cute thing with his daughter, so you could tell that the topic like means a lot to the person who made it. So to me, I don't know how to took that game. And mind you, when it comes to the game too, nobody's talking about the story itself. Nobody's talking about, the gameplay. No one's talking about any of that. It's all like political talking points. And the fact that people are being shamed to be wanting to be a dad is crazy to me. I think me personally, I think that's a beautiful thing, but maybe I'm in the minority here. Yeah, perhaps I'm definitely in the minority, but either way, games like these, man. And by the way, guys, this happens once every few months, okay? I don't cover every single game, but I just this one because this one was actually hurting my brain. But there's a lot of games that are like this, okay? For example, you had like Assassin's Creed Shadows. That one was huge because everyone was like, "Oh my god, a black samurai? That's crazy!" Mind you, real person, real documentation, all that stuff. But regardless, oh my god, there's a black samurai! Oh my god, how can we play this game? And the game ended up selling pretty okay. What's another one game that had a controversy? Oh, you had like Stellar Blade, okay? What was that one game's problem? Not the gameplay, it was the main character was too hot. Like, what are we talking about? And those like top of my head. I'm sure there's other ones. So to me, guys, when it comes down to video games, I know most of you guys don't do this stuff anyway. Y'all aren't terminally online, but when it comes to video game, play it, enjoy it for what it is. If it's bad, say why it's bad. If it's good, say why it's good. And if it's trying to put out a bigger message, then say what the message is and maybe why you disagree with it. That's how it should go. I'm not talking about men don't get baby. It's like, no, if you're gonna talk about this topic, talk about what the game was actually touching upon. But if you don't play the game, you don't see that. Or if you're like Hasan, you completely missed the point. Anyways, whatever. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow my social down below. Anyways, I need to take a break from video game discourse. This actually hurts. And tomorrow's video will be something a little more, a bit of a follow-up on an old case of mine. So, I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.